175 of Talking Real. And man, Nabil, you're working from home today unexpectedly, right?
Unexpectedly, yeah. Our internet, it's just one of those days where we're like, why isn't the internet working at the office? And so now here we are.
What does that tell you about the year 2021 and how business is done today? That like one, we couldn't do this if it weren't for the internet, but how much business just does come to a screeching halt if you don't have internet access. That's such like a
Yeah.
weird state of where we're at right now.
Yeah, there's like no question. As soon as the internet went out, all of us were like, okay, what do we do?
Yeah, and like
Because it's everything is so dependent on it that, even if you got like a couple hours of work done without the internet, you still need it to carry on.
right. Yeah, it's just so weird because when I first started my legal career in state government, like they wouldn't let you access your email remotely. Like you could only access it from the office.
Mm,
So like you
for
couldn't really,
security.
yeah. So now it's not that the technology wasn't there. I mean, I'm not that old, but it would, they wouldn't even let you, So it just was like, I don't know. It's just a strange state of affairs. I feel like that we're now in this place where and I am young enough to not really have been in the workforce at a time when the internet wasn't a necessary component of work. So it's all I've ever known, which is kind of interesting. I don't know.
Hmm.
I don't know what the
Yeah.
point of any of this is, but it just strikes me as. But it's also interesting how adaptable we are now to be able to work from anywhere. We're in
Hmm.
different places, those kinds of things, and that certainly is the state of the real estate market as well. Just being able to work from anywhere, having to work from anywhere, uh, buying homes without even seeing them, for example.
Right. Yeah. It's a changing and adapting world, and you gotta go with it.
Yeah,
You
which
have
kind
to
of
be
takes
ready to
us.
do whatever you need to do.
Yeah, which kind of takes us into our first topic we wanted to talk about today. Is just some wild statistics that as we continue to analyze this last year or so, I mean, really probably about a year because March is when things started to shut down last year. Took a couple of months for things to really kind of get going. So we've had about a year, a little over a year now of this really wild ride of a market. And so we're starting to see more and more statistics. And so Nabil and
Hmm.
I obviously love the statistics and love this information. And so we looked at a survey of about 1,600 homeowners that was conducted by homes.com. And we wanted to share a little bit of this with you just because it's nothing you don't already know. It just puts numbers to sort of the staggering state of the market right now.
Yeah, it kind of quantifies everything a little bit, and as they say, numbers don't lie.
Yeah. And we know homes are selling fast. We know they're selling for more. But this gives us a little more data on it, which is just kind of wild. Kind of wild.
Right. Right.
So where do you want to start, Nabil?
I think one of the biggest things that from the study and one of the first things that they cite is uh, one, homes are selling fast, duh. But they said a quarter of home sellers said they had five or fewer showings before finding a buyer. And 26% of them said between six and 10. So people are seeing less homes and making decisions faster. And 10% of them said they had no showings at all, like no in person showing. So, you could get the virtual tour, see the pictures, but, people are buying homes without even stepping foot on the property.
Yeah, I think that's such an interesting change that is it happened before. I mean, I'm aware of properties and situations, mainly with like an out of state buyer that may be
Hmm.
relocating, something along those lines. I mean, people have been buying houses on eBay for some time now, right? This is not necessarily a new thing, but it's certainly a rapidly increasing thing. Still pretty rare. I mean, when you say 10% said they had no in-person showings, I don't know what the statistics were before March of last year, before last year, but I
Right.
suspect that's a pretty large increase.
Hmm.
Um, And I think this is kind of interesting too, is that 82% of homeowners who sold in the last 6 months, their offers were at list price or above, right? And so before, I mean, I remember just, a year ago or so before all this got crazy, we talked about statistics and it was something like homes were selling, even at that point, for like 95 to 97% of list price. But
Hmm.
the data still showed they were selling below list price. And now we're starting to see this where the vast majority, 82%, are selling at or even above list price, some of them considerably higher, where 27% of the sellers said that they accepted offers 10 to 20,000 higher than their requested sales price. So higher than their list price, which is,
Right.
I think, one of the crazy things that we've seen now is how much over list price we've seen them going.
Right. And I mean, let's also keep in mind that list price has also risen considerably in the past year, right? So it's like a double, uh, I don't know what the right word for that is. It's like
A,
a
a double
sandwich, I guess. I
whammy.
don't know. A double whammy, a double decker sandwich.
Yeah, yeah. So again, we've known this is going on. We're not telling you anything that you're not aware of if you're listening to this, but just kind of seeing these statistics come through is pretty wild.
Yeah. Yeah. And then on top of getting, a higher list price and above asking, sellers are also just being pickier. Right? Not I mean, not necessarily in a bad sense, but they're like, "Hey, we don't want to take any contingent offers. We don't need any strings attached." So 28% of sellers said they required all cash payments, no contingencies, and 30 days or less to close.
That's
So,
that's wild to me that over a quarter of sellers, over
mhm.
28% are saying only cash, only cash, no
Yeah, that's it.
contingencies, basically as is. Like, you
Yeah,
can come buy this house for what I'm asking for it for cash, and we'll close in the next 30 days.
right. And maybe above what I'm asking for.
This goes back to, I think last week we talked about it, some of this institutional ownership of properties as well, that where there is this shortage and you've got large amounts of investment, money that's still floating out there that want to buy houses that can come in and buy cash, certainly creates a real problem for first time home buyers, or not even first time, but just anybody who's just looking to maybe sell their house and upgrade a little bit. That is further and further out of reach for people, in some respects, because I don't know about you, Nabil, but if I wanted to go sell my house and buy a new one, I could not pay cash, right? Like,
Right.
there's no way I could pay cash. I would have to get a loan on it. And in that
Mhm.
respect, it would be challenging to close in 30 days working with many lenders. So, not to say that it can't be done, but it's just, it's a really challenging market for your average folks out there who want to buy a house. I mean, that's
Yeah,
the
and
bottom line.
yeah, and you hear, "Oh yeah, I can sell my house, but what am I going to buy?"
Yeah. Yeah. I
There's
know
just
a
not a
few.
lot of inventory.
Yeah, I have a few sort of friends and acquaintances that I've talked to that have decided to sell their house and, like, move in with a friend. So maybe they're single
Mhm.
at the moment. For example, I can think of one that we heard from the other day, where she's like, you know what, I can cash out of my house. Um, I'm going to sell my house. I'm going to move in with my friend for a little while, and then I can just kind of take my time to decide what I want to do next. Which is, certainly a good opportunity there. And in that respect, maybe for her, it's a better deal to do that. They can both save some money on rent and all that kind of thing. But
Mhm.
that's also not the majority of your working adults, for the most part, are
Right.
not going to be as interested in doing that, particularly if maybe they are married or have families, those kinds of things. So kind of a weird state of affairs for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Nabil, did you see the Florida condo collapse thing?
Yeah, I mean, that is, I mean, shocking and scary, right? Like,
Yeah,
it
it's
was, yeah, I don't even know what to say about that. It's a terrible situation.
yeah. I mean, it really is. And um, I've always wondered, so we do kind of a family trip to Florida
Mm.
just about every year for as long as I can remember. And it always has struck me as interesting, the houses and the well, no, houses and condos and those kinds of things that are built there on right on the beaches, and they get hurricanes that come through, and it's always, I'm not an engineer, right? I don't know anything about the mechanics of building these properties, but I've always kind of wondered that. I've just have always been like, man, how can they keep these things stable and secure and safe and structurally sound and those kinds of
Hmm.
things? And it's fortunate that we don't see this kind of thing all the time, but I've started to see some interesting things pop up, sort of real estate related in kind of following the this collapse that's happened, which again, there's still they don't know what happened. I mean, at this point, I think they're still just it's unclear what's happened. Um, but it's kind of interesting to see what's going on here because this building was like 40 years old. So this is
Hmm.
not a super old building. And it had recently undergone some minor construction and roof work, and they were in the process of a 40-year safety recertification process. And so their county requires it, that they were going through that, where they have to pass a number of sort of reviews and inspections and those kinds of things. So they had done what did I see? They had done some electrical and even structural safety reviews that they had done, and so they're kind of saying there's really no reason for this building to go down like this,
Hmm.
um, unless something happened to the supports below, like a sinkhole or something like that, is kind of what they've said. But it seems to me that what's kind of interesting about this is a lot of the structural engineers just say that this is a very unusual thing, right? Like, which we know, right? Otherwise, we would see this all the time or
Right.
more often. But
Right.
um, it's just kind of a weird deal and trying to figure out one, what happened, and why. There's a lot of different reasons why maybe it could have happened, but then raises sorts of questions for the other properties that are along there. I read that the Americans have built about $3 trillion worth of property on barrier islands and coastal floodplains. So there's a lot of property that fit within this kind of mold of
Mm.
along sort of beaches, barrier islands, those kinds of things, where they may be at higher risk of this kind of thing due to various structural issues, which is kind of interesting.
And and I heard or saw in a fleeting news article, and obviously haven't done my research on this, and you might have, is that they had some sort of report saying they had some, and this could be part of their safety inspection that they were going through, is that they had a little bit of um, an issue, maybe not like structurally sound issue, but like, obviously it's a 40-year-old building, so I'm sure there's some maintenance to be done.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and now they're calling for legislation or a rule or law that requires inspections for buildings that's in all of Florida, and I'm sure it'll probably expand to beyond, of inspections being done, and making sure these buildings are maintained and are safe.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough in a place like Florida when you're along the coast, where obviously the weather is much more
Hmm.
different, right? That the wind, the salt water, all those kinds of
Hmm.
things that can have problems. And they talked to one structural engineer who said just the malfunction of just one column in a building can really bring the whole thing down. So, again, we're lucky we don't see this, but I've seen some questions then start coming about disclosures and inspections and things like that when people want to buy in these, because I've seen some stuff on some real estate forums basically, and there were questions sort of in the aftermath of, has there been any discussion of changing inspection requirements, kind of as you mentioned, but also just for your individual person that's purchasing, that uh, if they have to do an inspection on the property, are they just inspecting the individual unit, or is there a desire then to have a more thorough inspection of the entire building for somebody that may want to buy in? And that's probably not going to be very common for an individual purchaser, but maybe an investor who wants to buy multiple units or something along those
Hmm.
lines. But at a minimum, I would say, if you are helping, a purchaser buy into a property like this, would it be wise to see if there have been any kind of structural or safety inspections done, right? Ask the building manager, those kinds of things to see, what do they have available to show that this property has been inspected, has gone through any kind of review process, and what that even is. And I don't even know, like in Oklahoma, I don't know what we have, if we have anything here. And we've had seismic activity and stuff in the
Oh
state
yeah.
in recent
Hmm.
years. So, who knows? I don't know. We haven't seen buildings collapse or anything like that here, but, it kind of raises a question of what are our requirements for safety inspections as buildings get older and older, because Oklahoma is still a young state, right? So we don't have buildings that were built that are 100 years old that are tall buildings or anything, but certainly things are going to start aging. And I think it's really kind of an interesting issue I've never really thought much about, particularly on these multi-unit residential properties.
As I think we had a little bit of a internet glitch there, at least on my end. Hopefully, all that stuff went. But yeah, I'm sure they'll come up with some sort of solution where it's, this inspection is 2 years old, but here you go, buyer. You can look at this, that everything is fine, and yeah, it's
Yeah.
man, what a situation.
Yep, for sure. So certainly tragic. Um, and hopefully we can learn some lessons off of this type of thing about how are we making sure these kinds of properties are safe, that they're being inspected, and that information is available to buyers and sellers as well. Everybody that lives in there, that kind of information is available. So if, yeah, kind of think through that. If you're helping somebody buy property in these kinds of structures, what kind of questions are being asked there.
Hmm. Yeah.
So, Nabil, as we shift gears here, we do have something interesting coming soon, right?
We always have something interesting coming
Always interesting.
soon.
I'm excited. Conference registration is now
It's
available.
live. It's
Oh
live.
man,
Yeah.
can you believe it?
So it's happening. I mean, we're going to be at the Omni September 12th to the 14th. It is, if you haven't had a chance to go to the Omni, I mean, it is a fantastic property. And I think it's surrounded by so many fun things to do. We've got a lot of fun activities and engaging speakers planned. And you can go check out the schedule, register now, oarconference.com.
Yeah, please do. I mean, this is going to be fantastic. One, we get to be one of the first conferences in the brand new facility
Mm-hmm.
right there, Scissor Tail Park, right out in front. A lot of cool events. Again, every year we're trying to ramp this up. Obviously, last year we had to audible and do this online, but this year we're going back live in person. It's going to be a great time. So please come check it out. Go to oarconference.com and check that out. Now, part of conference, we also like to give out a lot of awards.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that's going on right now is we're accepting applications and nominations for awards and committees. Don't forget committees because that's
Don't
important as
forget
well.
committees. Mm-hmm.
But you can go to okrealtors.com/applications. And on that website, you can do a couple of things. One, you can apply for a committee, and you've got till September 30th to apply for any of OAR committees. We've got like 18 of them or something that you can apply for. So come join us. That could be something
Mm-hmm.
like our conference committee that helps plan conference, or our diversity and inclusion committee, or any number of other committees that we have available. So check that out. But also important to that is our awards. Now, those have to have an application or a nomination in by the end of July. Wait,
That
is
is
that right?
correct.
Okay.
That is
It's
correct.
like, let me
July
get my
30th.
dates right. End of July, July 30th. So get those in, and now you can apply. If there's an award that you fit the bill for, by all means apply. If there's somebody else that you think would be a good fit, then you can nominate somebody else as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of great awards out there, Realtor of the Year, Life Member Awards, all kinds of stuff out there. But one of the ones we want to point out today and highlight is our Commercial Advocate Award. Obviously, we do a lot related to residential real estate, but we cannot forget our commercial realtor friends and colleagues out there. And we have a special award just for those that are out there practicing in commercial. Now, Nabil and I, we don't know a whole lot about commercial real estate, but we've got somebody that we want to bring in to help explain a little bit more about that award. Emilykaye Mitchelson, who is our new district vice president for District 6, which is our statewide commercial district. And so we want to bring her in to tell you a little bit about her, just to kind of introduce her for those that don't know her, as well as explain more about the importance of that Commercial Advocate Award.
So, without further ado, let's get right into this with Emily Kay.